great. But the coffee is supposed to be excellent for you if you have an organic brew. Again,
right? No, I mean, I see those studies, and I'm like, yes.
I think this is a good segue into the environment, because we just mentioned organics again, and we should not assume that everybody is up on that, because this is one of my pet peeves is, it's not all about us. Like you see in Whole Foods and places like this, you see these teeny little juice packets of what Chris likes to call 10,000-year-old trash, right? That'll just never go into the earth. And yet in this little teeny thing, right, this package to mimic the other so-called conventional mainstream Americana brands, that it's made to mimic it so that your child doesn't feel weird about bringing the organic brand to school, right? Because peer pressure is everything. And yet, okay, so your child is getting organic fruit juice. So they're not those toxins are not going into their body, but yet that trash is still being put into the planet. So the other animals are hurt. That's part to me of why, of where the connection is with cannabis and the environment.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that? Because you talk a lot about that your own personal health, eating the plant, including the actual fan leaves and things like that. And the health aspect of it is one thing, but the organic is also, it's not just for our bodies, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, I mean, and when you're talking about packaging, I think that the industry is just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Yeah. I mean, it's so I don't know what the rules are in Massachusetts, but in Colorado and California, I mean, they're so insanely overpackaged that I'm blown away by that part. It's interesting. When I first got my med card 9-10 years ago, you would go into the dispensary and it was jars of cannabis, jars of flower.
Right.
The smell and everything. Now you go in, it's like going to an Apple store, right? It's like, get me my digital thing, right? There's, and there's one sad little like corner with a couple jars of flour. Right? It's
a devolution, right?
It is, but it's interesting. So we're really getting, we're really far from the plant. So, it's, there's, and yet we also still have the, how that plant is being grown is then being concentrated and extracted and processed. And so like all of the crazy pesticides like Eagle 20 that they are still using to grow that are getting concentrated and, all of that. So, God knows what we're doing with some of these products. I mean, it's a grand experiment that with no regulatory oversight. So
there's no organic certified cannabis either.
No, there are third parties that are trying it, right, but they're not making a lot of traction.
It's wrong.
It's crazy. It is, especially it kind of breaks my heart for people who are using this as truly as medicine.
Yes.
Right? So you have people with seriously compromised immune systems who, the last thing they should be getting is, Eagle 20 in their lungs. So
and that is very true. But if you think about the alternative, then what are they going to get? A prescription drug to get?
Well, they could get organically certified, certified organically grown cannabis.
Well, yes, that would definitely be better. And but that goes back to the same old thing, doesn't it? That we're back to the drug companies, the actual drugs and pharmaceutical companies.
Well, that's another scary thing because that's coming. That is coming next. And once that happens, then, what's going to happen to our access to this when you have to have a prescription from a doctor in order to get it. Right.
Well, that's happening with the other sacred plants too. Right. It's not right.
Yeah.
It's one thing when it is a synthetic psychedelic, and it's another thing when it's from the earth.
Yes, exactly.
Because humans have been working with these plants for as long as we know.
Yes.
We really don't know when it started, but, married to an ethnobotanist, it's pretty moving around. The humans find it.
Yes. Yes.
And then it informs their culture and how they.
Well, and if you believe, the ethnobotanists, and that's why, we tried it and then we invented religion. So, right.
Language too, they say.
Right. Yeah. It was really responsible for the, these great leaps in humanity.
We're very strange.
We are very strange.
The thing is that I think that many of the older, these ancient civilizations that were so astounding that really there were big leaps, leaps ahead that happened with, there were sacred plants present that were part of their lives. There were no laws around not using it.
Right.
So we've been denied that, and now with these, there are certain people trying to push it forward and get it legalized or at least decrimmed, right? There's the decrimmed nature people who are really great, and psilocybin mushrooms were just decrimmed in Denver. Is that right?
Yep, that is correct.
They didn't have like cocaine and opium, right? Which are both plants. They did not decrim those, but they decrimmed ayahuasca. They decrimmed also mushrooms. And I believe iboga too. So, I mean, it's pretty amazing what they did, but they just left those other two out because the truth is that cocaine and opium, from the plant can be extremely addictive. And one thing when you do the responsible journeying, but it really is an addictive substance. So it's hard not to get addicted if it's around.
Yeah.
That's what I understand. But it's still a sacred plant with with these psychoactive properties that you can journey with. And it was, it is from the natural world. So, but yeah, they've just decrimmed. And now there are these other people who are working to create these pharmaceutical drugs that you have to, like you say, get a prescription for. And I'm worried about that.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm very worried about that.
So this comes down to, our rights to what we put in our own body and our natural right to work with these plants, to have our own, our minds do what we want them to do.
Right.
I mean, isn't that what it is? What if somebody takes it away from us? And I guess that's one of the reasons I fight for the Grow Your Own movement, which I just happen to love. It's also because you can grow organically.
Right. Exactly. You can have control.
And you have a relationship with the plant.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I think that's the most amazing part to me. I mean, that's where everything changed for me when I was able to grow my own, my whole relationship with the plant changed. And, I remember, my son was in college at the time when he was in college and, some of his friends came over and saw my plants and they'd never, these kids had been smoking for, some of them for like 10 years at that point. And they'd never touched the plant. They'd never even seen the plant. Like they were like petting it and they were like, oh my gosh, like they were so in love with it. And I was like, it was such a cool education for them to realize like, this thing that I love to do is connected to this plant. And, like it was just such a disconnect, but, that it became something that they had to like, go underground and get from a scary dealer when it's a plant.
So true. And it's always this job of pulling people back to the plant, to the nature, right?
Right. Yeah.
And it is a fascinating plant. I mean, we talk about she because, the psychoactive part comes from the female plant, but the hemp people talk about the male because they want the seeds.
Right.
Right. Like the hemp nut oils and things like that.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So it's not always she, it's really just the cannabis plant. And this goes back to your cooking with cannabis because, we talk about the, getting high part of it, ingestibles and edibles rather, like eating a wonderful spaghetti sauce that's infused, right? But also the pesto that you can make from the family if you're growing your own.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Yeah. It's fantastic. And being able to juice them is also great. Yeah. I mean, it's just, there's nothing like growing your own, I think. I would wish that everybody who loves the plant could experience it at least once because it really does. It changes everything.
I have not tried juicing. What does it taste like?
It tastes, just like it's a bit bitter. Like, you don't want to have it alone. I usually, I would put it with other juices, put a bunch of other stuff with it. Like usually try to put something like apple and, like even ginger or something to kind of mask it because it's pretty bitter.
It's like kale. Like I always put a little.
Yeah, like exactly. Or, like wheatgrass or whatever when you're, it's got that kind of, very earthy, slightly bitter taste. But
super good for you.
It's great for you. I mean, if you believe, some of the doctors that have come out with it and stuff. I felt better when I was doing it. I'm not in a place where I can grow this year. And this is, the first year in probably 6 years that I'm not harvesting, and it's hard. I really, really miss it. And I really, really miss having all those families. Yeah, I used to make a ton of pesto and just, put it in the freezer. And yeah, you had it all winter, it was great.
Yeah, our plants are growing, and it is really lovely to watch them. Oh, maybe this year I will just make sure to take some of those leaves and try to juice it. I'd like to try it.
Yeah, it's good. It's worth doing, and it's kind of crazy those are good, food. Those leaves makes me crazy to see. Yeah, they're all just, I couldn't, I have friends who are growers here, but I can't get leaves from them because they literally have to weigh them and throw them away. They have to right? Because, yeah.
What we're talking about is this frustrating slowness of our culture.
I just keep thinking at some point there's going to be something that's going to happen, and it's just going to change on a dime, and suddenly it's going to be federally legal. I really, truly believe that's going to happen. But I don't know what the thing will be. I just think that it will happen. It's going to have to. It's getting too complicated. Now that CBD, and hemp is legal federally, they can't figure out how police officers have never known. The reason they made hemp illegal in the first place is because they can't tell the difference between, marijuana and hemp because they're the same plant.
So many people are writing for these big magazines that really have no clue. It's really bad here. The Boston Herald is the worst.
Is it really? Oh, that's too bad.
Clearly have no idea. They're so against edibles. And these people who are writing, the journalists, obviously have no experience with edibles.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that's hilarious is social media. So if you actually go to the Boston Herald on Facebook and you follow the page and you wait for a cannabis article to be shared, the comments are very funny, and they're mostly people like us.
Interesting.
And there are thousands of them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where it's really happening, in the comment sections. We don't have a lot of time, but I want to talk about pot and pans. Yeah, I love it. I love the book. I love how it feels in my hand. It's really good book.
Thanks.
And you're such a brilliant writer, so it's also a great read. But I want to ask you, what was the biggest surprise or maybe one of the most fun things that you discovered? Because you researched a lot.
I did research a lot. Gosh, there were so many things. I think the story that is kind of just the most fun and was the really fascinating to untangle was the whole pot brownie genesis.
Yeah.
How the pot brownie was really, it originally was actually Majoon, which is a cannabis treat that goes back to ancient Persia, that Chris, your husband, makes a wonderful version of that's in the Cannabis Kitchen Cookbook.
Well, yeah, we call it ceremonial. Very strong.
Yes, they were. Yeah, I've had Chris's Majoon on several different occasions that have embarked on hilarity, but yeah. So, but I think that was the most fun, just kind of teasing out that whole story and how, in Alice B. Toklas's cookbook, it turned into the brownie, and then, or basically in the movie based on the cookbook. So that story was just really fun because I just kept kind of digging into it and finding more pieces of it and figuring out, how this happened. So I think that was the most fun, but gosh, there was a lot in that book. What I'd love to do is now take that book and go Michael Pollan it, and go do all the things that are in there and go to Thailand, right? Go to, we went to Jamaica. So that was that part we got to do, but I'd go back again. But yeah, so, there's, and again, I could keep writing that book forever and ever and ever, I think, because we're going to keep learning more because we're going to be able to, because finally, the research channels are opening up for cannabis.
And on that note, I think we are over our time, but I would love to say that, we're going to be going back down to Peru again, hopefully in April in 2020. And why are you interested in coming again?
I feel like I keep saying, I don't know, but
you're feeling the call.
I'm in a very I don't know place. I just was about to go, I just kind of ended my traveling in my Airstream journey.